Hi, this is Chase Utley, and this is the Phillies Show. Ruben Amaro Jr., Jim Salisbury, Todd Zolecki. It's the Phillies Show. It's Tuesday, June 24th, 2025. Hope everybody is doing well. The Phillies and Astros open up a big 3-game series on Tuesday night in Houston. Two teams playing really good baseball, guys. The Astros, late April 26th, they were 500. I think everybody was thinking, well, they lost Alex Bregman. They lost Kyle Tucker. Finally, they're going to be they're going to come back to earth and maybe miss the playoffs. But since then, they've been playing great. They are 32-20 since April 26th. It's the second best record in baseball. Who's got the best record in baseball in that span, guys? Do you ask? Oh, you ask? Well, let me tell you, it's the Philadelphia Phillies. They're 33-18 since April 26th. They've got the best record in baseball in that stretch.
Hey, Todd, they also lost Yordan Alvarez, who's not playing. He's hurt and wasn't playing well. I mean, they're three great offensive players that they literally are not performing that they had last year. Anyway.
Yeah, why couldn't they have lost Yordan Alvarez before Game 6 in 2022?
Stop.
Maybe just to a hangnail. I'm not wishing.
Oh gosh. So it's a big series, and that's a great place for us to start with the Parks first. First pitch is brought to us by our friends at Parks Casino, right off of I-95 and State Road. Jim, big pitching matchup. It's Ranger Suárez versus Framber Valdez. It doesn't get much better than this.
Two very, very good lefties who, when I think of both of them, I think of pitchability. Both have a lot of pitchability. And Ranger's just been terrific lately. I mean, I was hearing not long ago, 2-3 weeks ago, trade Ranger, and it was making my head explode. You can't trade Ranger Suárez. You need Ranger Suárez to win. If you're going to win the World Series, you need him pitching well, whether he's in the rotation, whether he's in the bullpen. In October, I don't know what they're going to do, but this man knows how to get outs, and that is the name of the game in pitching. I don't care how you do it. He gets outs. His last 9 starts, he is 6-3. His last, he's made 9 starts for the season. He's 6-3. His last 8, Todd, 6-1 with a 1.17. He's been dynamite for this team. He's changing speeds. He's keeping the ball down. He can ride it up on occasion when he can hunt a strikeout, getting a lot of soft contact, pitching with that typical Ranger Suárez poise and cool that he exudes when he's successful and when he's feeling good. And clearly he's feeling good physically. So I'm really looking forward to this game 1 matchup. I always think game 1 is important to get something off to a good start. Should be a fun series, always is. 2 first-place teams, you mentioned the records. All things that rise must converge, and they are converging once again, and they have a history. The Astros and the Phillies have a history, going back to 1980 when the Phillies finally got over the hump and got to the World Series. And then, of course, in 2022, played in the World Series. I mentioned Yordan Alvarez had that humongous home run. I can still hear it. I can still hear it resonating in my brain from, that ball was a thunder shot off of Jose Alvarado. So totally different circumstances now. Still 2 good teams and both trying to get somewhere special in October. So looking forward to this 3-game series. Really important. The Phillies playing well. What are they? I think they've won 9 of their last 11. I mean, you mentioned best record in baseball over a good chunk of time here. That was with a 1-10. And, it's important they build on this really good weekend that they had against the Mets as they go down to Houston on Tuesday night.
Talk about great matchups. I mean, you talk about the lefties and how good the other lefty in this matchup is. Framber Valdez. He's been outstanding for a long time. He's been a stalwart for them. The starters in general for the Houston Astros have been really good. Maybe one of the best rotation and combination of rotation and bullpens in baseball especially over the last couple of months. Framber Valdez. His last 8 games, 7-0 with a 2.13. He's been dealing. His last start, though, against the Athletics, after having a couple of multi digit strikeout performances. He struggled this last time with 5 walks. So hopefully he's softening a little bit here for the Phillies. But a really, really good rotation and an excellent bullpen that the Phillies are going to be facing here against the Astros.
Hey, that was First Pitch, brought to you exclusively by our partners at Parks Casino, Pennsylvania's #1 casino, parkscasino.com. You must be 21. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Guys, last week, we're going to get to this. We chatted with Phillies assistant general manager of amateur scouting, Brian Barber. Brian Barber, of course, runs the show for the amateur draft, which is going to be Sunday and Monday during the All-Star break. Phillies have the 26th overall pick. Brian Barber is the guy who selected Mick Abel and Andrew Painter and Aidan Miller and Justin Crawford in the first round. All 4 of those guys seem to have bright futures, and a lot of fun kind of talking to Brian about a lot of different topics, drafting Mick, drafting Andrew Painter, kind of the strength of this year's draft, all sorts of different things. I think everybody is going to really enjoy it. So here you go. Phillies assistant general manager, Brian Barber. Brian, thanks for joining us at the Phillies show. Hope you're doing well. So this is your 6th draft with the Phillies. Is this an exciting time of year for you? Is this a stressful time of year for you? Is this do you get any sleep at this time of year? I know you're at the draft combine right now in Phoenix. How kind of talk us about a little bit of that stuff.
It's a little bit of everything. Most of the on-field activities are pretty much done at this point. So you've had an opportunity to, travel the country, go around and see the players and do your on-field evaluations of the players. Starts to get stressful just because it's more anxious than anything else at this point, because you're waiting to see what's going to happen, who might actually have a chance to be there when you pick. And obviously, I'm super grateful that we get to pick late in the draft, because it means our big league team is pretty good. But it does get stressful trying to figure out who might actually fall down to you at 26. So now we're doing things like out here at the Combine in Phoenix and meeting with the players, doing some of the final on-field evaluations, and it's just trying to tie up all loose ends that you've been trying to figure out from the year, the spring, the years with some of these players that we've evaluated. Some of them going back 4 or 5 years that we saw in high school. So you're just tying up any loose ends, and at this point now you're starting to do your final I guess lining up of the board and who you like more than the next guy.
So, Brian, how many days have you been at home, maybe since like the college season started?
Not a whole lot. That's probably, the hardest part of this job for any scout is being on the road as much as we are. We do it because we love it and we love what we're doing. But yeah, it does at times, it probably gets a lot harder on our families than it does anything else. So, but that's what we do, and we do it because we love it.
So the late great Jim Fregosi, friend of mine, friend of Ruben's, he was preparing for the draft with the Phillies, and he was getting ready for a long road trip, and he's on the road for like a month or so. When he comes back, he lands at LAX, and he takes the little car out to the parking lot, and now he's wandering around the parking lot looking for his car, and there's no car. So he calls the Los Angeles police, and the police come, and he calls his wife and said, my car got stolen at LAX. And she said, what are you doing at LAX? You flew out of Ontario. He was gone so long, he forgot which airport he went. So you guys are on the road an awfully long time. You got any stories like that?
No, nothing like that. Fortunately, Orlando only has one major airport, so I don't get messed up that way. But I think the normal, I've been doing the scouting part for 24 years and been married the entire time doing that. The normal answer for my wife when she asks, when are you coming home, is I don't know. It's just because you really don't know. You go on a trip that you think might be a week or 10 days. there's always going to be a game that you want to go to the following day. So sometimes you stay out on the road because that's what the job forces you to do, and that's what you want to do. So, my wife has heard I don't know when I'm going to be home, probably more than most.
More from Brian Barber in a minute. But first, Ruben, what's going on at Parks Casino this week?
Boys, it's a cool summer vibes that are happening there at my casino of choice, Parks Casino. They got it all in one place, Street Road exit off of I-95 and the PA Turnpike. They've got excitement, headline entertainment, great restaurants. They got all types of stuff going on. They got things for like not just a gambler, but also to just go and a place to just have fun. Guys, girls night out, after work, happy hours. I mean, check out the concerts. There's comedy, there's state-of-the-art Excite Center that I've been to several times, and they have got a collection of award-winning restaurants. Don't forget Chickies and Pete's there, the Liberty Bell Beer, Gastropub and Beer Garden. And listen, this weekend they got action in the 360 Lounge. This Friday, The Exceptions, they take the stage. And then Saturday night, it's the band Fish Out of Water. It's Parks Casino. This is how you win. Pennsylvania's #1 casino. ParksCasino.com for tickets to all shows. You must be 21. Gambling problem, 1-800-GAMBLER.
Brian, I wanted to ask you a little bit about that combine you're at right now in Phoenix. Obviously, it's been going on for a few years now. I had positive thoughts about it when we were talking about it way back when, and some negative ones about it. What's your take on it, and what are the pluses and minuses for you?
Yeah, I think for the most part, it's ended up turning out to be a real positive thing. So for the most, in the end, there's about 350 players that get invited here. I'll just explain a little bit of what it is for the audience. So about 350 players get invited by Major League Baseball to attend. There's 4 different portions of it. The on-field evaluation, not everybody works out, but a lot of kids do now. You get to meet with the players. There's a medical portion. And then there's strength testing and athletic assessment testing. So the positives are, being out here for 4 or 5 days, I get to meet with about 60 to 65 players, personally that I might not be able to do. So our scouts have done that, but I haven't got to meet with them personally. And the medical testing is being able to do that is great now. That in the past you would draft a player and sometimes you wouldn't have any idea if they're healthy or not, but when you drafted them. And so that's taken a real weight off of our shoulders on a lot of those things. Probably the most negative part of it is, do I push this player on that other teams might not know about, that we've been able to scout over the past year?
Right.
And you don't want to get into group scouting. So there are times that you sit there and you think, plenty of guys that are known by the entire industry and all 30 clubs and then there are other times that, hey, I think our scout might be the only person on this player or very, very few. And do you want all 30 clubs to know about them? So trying to stay away from the group scouting aspect, which is probably the most negative thing and the hardest thing to deal with out here.
That was always the one for me, that if your scout had a guy, you wanted to keep it quiet. Like, this is a guy I really, really like. And there may be only maybe 1 or 2 or 0 teams that are on that guy. Yeah,
100%. And that it probably happens less just because of the amount of events these players go to all around the country, all the publications that put out names on different players, but it does still happen. And there are times that you want the Phillies to be the only team to know about a player or one of a very small handful of teams. And then it's your time to battle in the draft of where, whether you decide when or where to take this player.
So Brian, I also had this question about when you're drafting a player, how that player might fit in Philadelphia. How much do you weigh that actual talent? Obviously, you're going to grade the guy out as far as his talent is concerned. How far and how much importance do you place on the makeup? And is that a factor for you? And, does it sort of depend on where in the draft you pick that guy as far as the makeup is concerned and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think makeup's a huge portion of the player. And you try to divide a player up into different aspects of what he brings to the table. And there's the on-field part and the tools and baseball skill, how he's performed at various levels, his just straight athleticism, but then makeup is a huge component of that as well. So of that puzzle. So we do a lot of work on it. It's one of the things I know they did work on it before, but it was one of the things I really pushed once I came over here. It's just, not just that I've been through it, that I just know how important makeup is. A player working his way through the minor leagues, one, and then two, hopefully once he gets to the major leagues and playing in a major city, in a major market like Philadelphia, that can be tough on players, right? Are they able to withstand the heat of playing in Philadelphia and playing in a playoff team and playing in a playoff race? So yeah, a lot of that goes into it. So you're not, your 20th rounder might not be quite as highly graded or on that as your first or second rounder, but it is something that we do on almost every player that's on our board.
Brian, because you guys picked 26 overall, just curious, how big is the pool, or how wide is the pool of potential players you might pick at 26 a month away from the draft? Because I feel like there's so many, surprises in the draft. So how big is that pool right now? And by the time the draft rolls around that Sunday night before the All-Star game, do you have it whittled down to like 5 or 10 guys, or does it have to be bigger than that?
Well, right now it has to be bigger than that because you don't know who's going to be there. Like if we had a better idea of how the draft was going to play out in front of us, then the pool, probably by draft day, you're looking at about 5 to 6 players that you think have a chance to get to you, that you've talked about. And by draft day, you've already lined up the board, so you know how you want it. So, but at this point, it might be close to 30 to 40 players just because you don't know what's going to happen in front of you. I don't think anybody, knowing in this draft right now, we don't know who's going to go 1, 2, 3. We have the players that will most likely go in that range, but we don't know the order of that yet. So, yeah, it's pretty wide pool right now of players that might be in that mix. And then as you know, it just whittles its way down as you find out more information. You've worked your way down that list, but right now it's working off of about 30 to 40 players, and it'll be down to about 5 on July 13th.
What's considered the strength of this 2025 draft?
Probably sticks out is high school position players this year, and in particular shortstops and middle infielders is the strength. So in the past couple years, it's probably been much more college position player heavy, and this year it really lines up where the high school position player crop is probably the strongest. And
you've never, 5 drafts, you've gone the high school route every year. So some people, I guess, consider that a risky demographic. You obviously don't. Is it a case-by-case thing depending on the player available in the year, or are you really do you believe strongly in the younger player high upside?
Well, a little bit of both. So in one aspect you are what you do, and we've taken high school players for the last 5 years, but some of that has just been we were at the mercy of who was there as well, and we were very happy with who we were able to select. But there were plenty of college players that were on our boards and really good spots, and they just happened to go in front of us. So, especially the first couple of years when we took Mick, he was 15th overall. When we took Andy, he was 13th. Justin was 17th, and then we've been at 27 the last 2 years. You sort of just have to wait and see who gets to you at that point. The high school player crop. Especially when we took Mick and Andy, I thought the high school our pitcher crop was really devalued in the industry. So that just gave us an opportunity to pick players that otherwise wouldn't have been there. The high school position player crop isn't quite as risky industry-wide thought as the pitchers have been. So I don't know what's going to be there this year. I really don't when we pick. It's a secret to me as much as it is to anybody else.
Kratz, real talk, I do not carry cash around me, but what I do carry around on my phone is Cash App.
Easy peasy. Like I said before, anytime Scott can pay for the tab, that is good. And it's always right there. Fast, easy, always available.
Yeah. Oh, my credit card's not working, or oh, I didn't bring
Nope.
cash with me. There's no more alligator arms. Do you have your phone? Most people have their phone. So use Cash App. It's secure and safe. There's no waiting around. It is a super, super easy sign-up process. You can sign up quicker than you can listen to Kratz and I talk about Cash App. For a limited time only for the FT fam, new Cash App users can use our exclusive code to earn some additional cash. For real, no catch. Just download Cash App and sign up. Use our exclusive referral code TERRITORY in your profile. Send $5 to a friend within 14 days, and you'll get $10 dropped right into your account. Terms apply. That's money. That's Cash App.
When you think back to Mick Abel, who's your first round pick, when you maybe tell a story 10 years from now, 20 years from now about scouting Mick, what's that story going to be? What's kind of sticks out about him? And then what do you think about the success he's had since he joined the Phillies this season?
Yeah, hopefully it's a funny story in the end, but we didn't get to evaluate Mick in the spring that year because it was COVID.
That's true. Yeah.
I remember it wasn't the first time that I saw Mick, because I saw him in between his sophomore and junior year of high school as well at the area codes that he pitched there. But the one thing that really sticks out to me with Mick is I was walking away. It was a summer, so it would have been summer of 2019, and he was at a summer event down in Bradenton at IMG that year. It was part of the Team USA process, and he had just thrown a game. I was still with the Yankees at the time, but walking away, I'd just seen him pitch, and it was like, wow, if I ever had the opportunity, if I was running the show, getting to make the pick, and Mick Abel was there, I don't think there's any way in the world I'd walk by him.
Wow.
So it was at that point. Obviously, walking back on it now, not being able to evaluate a high school pitcher, seeing him in person for 8 months, it sounds a whole lot scarier now than I thought it was at the time. So.
That's great. I was wondering, I wanted to go back and talk about the difference on the Otto Kemp story, because is that a more satisfying and gratifying thing to see happen, to see a kid that wasn't drafted and your scout grabbing that guy sort of out of the blue and signing him, or is it more gratifying to have a Mick Abel get to the big leagues? What, do you feel one way or another about that type of scenario?
Yeah, you're super happy at both. The idea is everybody that you sign ends up having an opportunity to play in the big leagues or giving themselves a chance. So, the Mick Abels of the world should make the big leagues where you take them. That's just the reality of it. When you take a guy in the first round, especially in the middle of the first round, it's almost it's not a foregone conclusion, because it's still not anywhere close to 100% success rate with first round picks. But you almost feel that person should end up being a good player. The Otto Kemps of the world, all credit in the world goes to our scout Zach Friedman that ended up signing Otto. And I've told many a person this now at this point. I have emails from Zach Friedman starting in February of that spring about Otto Kemp being one of his gut feel players and a player that he wanted to really bring into the organization. And it's not, Otto had some health and injuries in college. And he had a broken hamate at the time of the draft. It was probably the biggest reason why he wasn't drafted. But the draft for us signing players doesn't stop at the draft. It immediately afterwards as well. You're trying to bring in players that the scouts liked, and Zach didn't stop after the draft. It was one of the things, we were in contact with him during the draft, and nobody was calling Otto still. So you're trying to maximize who you're able to bring into the organization. And we thought we had an opportunity to do that post-draft with him. But that's, I don't want to say proud, but I'm just so happy for Otto that has worked his way from the very moment after we signed him and got to see him healthy and on the field. You knew you had brought in the right player and that he was going to give himself a chance. So very, very proud of Zach of bringing in that player, and super happy for Otto and the Phillies being able to have him. So.
You invest so much time, and your staff does, scouting these guys, getting to know them as ball players, but also as people. And now you bring them into the system. Are you living and dying with every box score? Like Mick Abel, he had some control issues last year. Are you looking at every box score and like I said, living and dying with that kid's progress because, you put your name on the pick, but also because you really, you have affection for the kid?
Well, yeah, about 100%. So living and dying in the box score, some of those are, you're paying attention, you're watching, and you're trying to figure out, like last year, what's gone sideways with Mick, and luckily we as an organization were able to figure that out. And a couple things with Mick that just never disappeared for him. He always took the ball every week since we had signed him. He took the ball every week. He always had talent, and he always had the makeup to end up being a good player. So those three things never disappeared from him. And the high school pitcher, what's so hard about them is just the journey of getting to the big leagues, the amount of things that can go wrong along the way. And that's why a lot of teams don't like to go down that route, is just because it's fraught with peril, I guess. There's so many different things that can go wrong. Paying attention all the time, hoping for the best for all these guys, not just for them, but obviously for the Phillies, because a lot of what we do is the direction of the future of the Phillies as well. Making sure we're bringing in the right players. So there's a lot of importance in the players that we're bringing into the system. So.
I was talking to maybe a year or two ago with Victor Gomez, who was the area scout who got Andrew Painter, and he told a funny story. And he said it was like the day before a couple of you guys were coming in. I don't know if you were in that group.
I know the story you're going to tell, so go ahead.
Okay, so Andrew Painter is one of the most prized arms in all of baseball, and everybody wants Andrew Painter, and he is out there on the field before a game in full catcher's gear, right, working out with his teammates, taking throws from the outfield and whatnot. And I guess Victor at one point was kind of like, oh my gosh, please don't get hurt. And then he took video of it, and he thought it was awesome because it showed how much fun he could have playing the game and how much he loved playing the game. But what do you remember about that story? Because I thought that was great.
You know what I remember about that story is that you couldn't tell, you knew who it was, but you couldn't tell that he wasn't a catcher because he was so athletic. Besides the height, I mean, you don't see many 6'7", 6'8" catchers back there, but he moved like a catcher and he was athletic doing it. Now I thought it was crazy that it was the day before he was pitching in the state regional championship or something like that, that he would do that. But he was actually, the video that I have of that is that as the coach had rolled out a bunt, he went and fielded the bunt, made a spin move and threw to first base, and was like, yeah, that's just how a catcher does it. And it just showed his athleticism that he, you think of pitcher only in high school that, you're trying to decide, can this guy move? Is he athletic? And it was like, oh yeah, he's got that.
Hey, to think about, speaking of that, is it still happen? I know everybody's sort of have centralized their sports as far as, but some of the high school kids are still playing some other sports. Is it still the practice of some of the scouts to see these guys playing other, places like basketball or track or whatever it may be? Maybe it's soccer because it's a different time of the season. Do you still have your guys track, those athletes doing these other sports to do more evaluation, or is that something of the past now?
No, it's not in the past. It's definitely part of the process. And really football, basketball are probably the two main ones, just because they're different seasons of the year for those sports as well. So, I think there are a lot of things you can learn watching a guy play basketball or football that you might not be able to learn playing baseball. And it's not just the athleticism that you might see out there, but it might be the leadership abilities, or it might be a different type of makeup and toughness that you're not able to see on a baseball field. So it's definitely not a thing of the past. There are fewer guys that do it now just because of the specialization and the year-round activities in baseball, but there are multiple guys in this draft in particular that were basketball players that you don't get to see that a whole lot. So yeah, we're out as much as we can see a player doing anything. We're out there as much as we can seeing that.
Brian, how much analytics do you use preparing for the draft? How much has that changed in the last 20, 25 years? And how much is that, the evolution of analytics in the draft, how much has it made the draft more efficient or just simply better?
A lot. The answer is a lot, just because there's so much out there. The amount of information that is out there nowadays is just not even close to when I started. My first draft as a scout was 2002. Happened to be, I believe that was the year that the Moneyball story was written about. And it hasn't stopped, and it's not going to stop. And you don't want it to stop because more information is better. And then it's just your ability to try to filter out which information is important and which one is not. So you have a lot bigger staff. You have a lot more people that are involved nowadays. The ability to listen to those people's opinions and their evaluations on whether it's data, whether it's information. There's so much more nowadays than just going to the field and saying, I like this player or I don't like this player. And that's just the reality of it. And whether that's amateur baseball that you're getting the information, minor league baseball, and not obviously in the big leagues. So that information is just going to continue to grow, and it's better teams that are able to figure out what information is important and which one might not be quite as important.
And you mentioned Otto Kemp, Zach Friedman having a gut feel about Otto Kemp. Do you still encourage your guys to follow their gut on occasion, even when you have all this information?
Well, I mean, the thing with Otto and Zach's gut feel was that he thought Otto was a good player with tools that had performed that led him to thinking he was going to be a better player than other people didn't. So it was a learned gut from him, not just, hey, I think this guy's okay. Well, give me the reasons why you have a gut feel. But we still definitely ask that. We started doing our area scout pre-draft meetings last week. We'll continue them next week after the combine, and just trying to gather information. But on that call, on each of them is, hey, within different categories and our tiers of players and prospects, we ask, who are your gut feels from that? And then if it doesn't necessarily make sense or line up with what you might think, then you ask why, and they give you the reasons of why they have a gut feel on that player.
Do you like the condensed draft? I remember it used to be 50 rounds. I remember when it was unlimited. Then it was 50, then it was 40, now it's 20. Do you like that?
I mean, you do. It would be tougher to have a bigger draft with the roster limits in the minor leagues right now. So you live with what you have the ability to do. But if you had an opportunity to bring in more players, the 40-round or 50-round draft would give you an opportunity, especially as you move down the board, to take a risk on a high school player that may or may not sign that you just don't have the ability to do now in only 20 rounds. So that we try to say these draft picks are almost like, gold that you can't miss, or you just can't throw one out the window anymore. So because you only have so few of them.
Brian, you were the 22nd overall pick, right, in the 1991 draft. The Cardinals selected, and I'm sure this is probably a hokey question. I'm sure you've been asked this before, but how would the Phillies assistant general manager of amateur scouting scout high school pitcher Brian Barber? What would you like? What wouldn't you like? Would you like it all? Would you, have you ever?
Yeah, I've had that question asked before. I was so ignorant at the time of what I was doing. And in all honesty, going back, my senior year of high school, it was the first year I ever pitched. I just started pitching. I threw maybe 20 innings that summer in between. And then the high school year was the first year that I was really a full-time pitcher. I really didn't know what I was doing. So being able to break at the time, I didn't know what I was doing. So trying to break down what I was, 34 years later now, I'm not even sure what I was, to be honest with you. I don't think I'd have liked myself as much as Marty Mayer and Fred McAllister of the Cardinals at the time liked me. I'm probably not quite as big. I didn't throw quite as hard as these guys do nowadays. And I'm not, I don't know is the answer, right. But I probably wouldn't have had myself lined up where I was picked. So I'm glad they did, though.
That's awesome.
Speaking of pitching, I just had this one quick one. Do you remember facing your assistant GM, George Philandia, Jorge?
He reminded me of that. I do remember the one because he's got a video. I believe it was John Jaha that got me I'd come in relief, I think, that game. And ended up giving up a grand slam to John Jaha. And Jorge has the video that he gladly showed me of him running around the bases or John hitting the home run. So I don't remember facing him, to be honest.
Did he get him out, Todd? Did you see what?
Yeah, he did. I looked it up. Yeah, he. No, wait. Yeah, he did. You got him out.
Oh, good. I've got one up on him then.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. That's the real.
He's 0 for 1.
He's 0 for 1. He's in the book.
Yeah, you got him in the book. Nice.
Exactly right.
You were talking about when you were in high school. I remember you telling me a really funny story about you played with Johnny Damon's older brother, and one day the older brother brought Johnny to practice, and you had your scouting eyes on. You said that kid's going to be a great one.
Yeah, James is his older brother. I would have been, so I was just a year ahead of Johnny, so it would have been going into my sophomore year. James would have been a senior, and he brings Johnny in. It was like our summer team that we were playing. It was American Legion back then, our summer team, and brought out Johnny, and was like, at the time he was probably already 6 foot, 170 pounds as a 14-year-old, and it was just one of those that you saw. He was just so much better than everybody else at that point. A lot of the superstars, the guys that end up being superstars, were just always so much better than everybody else, and he was one of those. So yeah, pretty clear and evident.
How about just a quick story about scouting Aaron Judge when you were with the Yankees? What was that like when you saw him in college? Maybe you saw him in high school, and did you ever envision what he has become?
I don't think anybody would have necessarily envisioned what he's become. Anybody would be lying to you. Obviously, the first time I saw Aaron was in the Cape that summer before, and he was playing. I don't remember if he was on Brewster or if I was just watching him in Brewster that day. And it was just like, who is this mammoth of a human being hitting the ball so hard? And then you start to watch him, and it was like, oh, he's playing center field, so he's athletic enough to do that. And the first game I happened to be at, he just hit one of the hardest. It's for guys that were scouting back then and people that were there. I think the story's grown that, that there were like 300 scouts there that game, but he hit one of the hardest home runs that I still have ever seen hit. And it was just like, all right, he's got this natural ability with this size and strength that other people just don't have. You start to watch, figure out, can he actually play the game? And the more you watched Aaron, it was like, he's got an idea of how to do that as well. You find out, just going back, tying in your previous question, Ruben, and the makeup and just the unbelievable makeup that the player had, trying to figure out that he's going to be a multi-time MVP and all that stuff. You don't have that. I don't have that in my crystal ball with him, but the idea that he had a chance to be a special player, I think there were a few of us that saw that.
Yeah, what a pick by the Yankees when you were there.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the exciting part of the draft is what might happen down the road. And Phillies have the 26th overall pick, and then 63, 100 first 3 rounds. So 3 top 100 picks. Should be
it'll
fun.
be an exciting first day. July 13th, we've got the opportunity to do all 3 of those picks on that day. So it'll be a nerve-wracking day leading up to that, but all the work that time, most of the work will be done besides just last-minute phone calls and things. But July 13th, hopefully we're bringing in 3 players that these Phillies fans will like one day. So
that's great.
Well, no doubt.
Wish you a lot of luck, man. A lot of respect from all of us.
Nothing more
here.
important than bringing talent into the system, and congrats on all your successes, number one, and good luck for the following few years.
Guys, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
The Philly Show is brought to you by the Foul Territory Network. Subscribe to The Philly Show on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. If you like us, give us a review. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook, and Threads. Find Ruben's analysis before, during, and after Phillies games on NBC Sports Philadelphia, on the Sports Radio 94 WIP Morning Show, and MLB Network. Find Jim at allphly.com. Find me at MLB.com, the Phillies Beat newsletter, and MLB Network.